Hey guys, in this video we will be talking about the standard forms of valid and invalid arguments. Now, previously we had discussed what are arguments, how to show the validity of a certain argument using the truth tables. Now, aside from the truth tables, we can actually determine whether a certain argument is valid or invalid based on the certain patterns of their premises and conclusions. Now, first off, I will be presenting the valid arguments. We have here four. Now, say for example, we have propositions P, Q, and R, and if the propositions are actually placed in this manner or arranged in this manner, then we can say that the arguments are valid. Okay, or the given argument is valid. Now, first off, we have the modus ponens or the law of detachment. Yan. Wherein, if for example, we have P implies Q and and P as our premises and we have Q as our conclusion, hence this will be an example of a valid argument. Okay? Now, the second one is the modus tollens, wherein if we have P implies Q as one of our premises and the negation of Q as our or as another premise, yan, with a conclusion of the negation of P, hence this is still a valid argument. Okay? Now, we also have here the law of syllogism. We have here P implies Q and Q implies R as our premises and P implies R as our conclusion. Now, here, if you actually combine them, yan. Now, kumbaga, if you have your um, conclusion in the form P implies R, yan, then this will be a valid argument. Now, the law of syllogism can actually be extended. How would we do that? Say, for example, we have A implies B, B implies C, C implies D, D implies E, and a conclusion, A implies E. Now, the law of syllogism will still be applied as long as all of the premises will have the same operator as, or all of them will be implies, yan, or will utilize the conditional statements and observe as well the sequence of the propositions, yan. And the fourth valid argument or standard form of a valid argument is the disjunctive syllogism. Now here, one of the premises should be a disjunction, so that is P or Q, and the other is or the other premise will be the negation of our first proposition, and the conclusion should be uh, the second proposition. Now, in the disjunctive law of syllogism, observe na or notice the pattern of the propositions and also determine whether the propositions are actually arranged in such manner. Now, here, please take note na the sequence of the premises are actually commutative, meaning they can be interchanged and will still be valid kahit na i-interchange mo siya. Say for example, sa modus ponens or the law of detachment, kahit mauna yung premise na P kaysa P implies Q, basta yung conclusion niya is Q pa rin, therefore the same or the argument is still valid. Okay? So, pwede nating i-resequence yung ating premises. Now, those are for valid arguments. We also have here the standard forms for invalid arguments. So, meaning, if we have an argument and we see na ganito yung form niya, then it will automatically be invalid. Now, we have here the fallacy of the converse. Yan. So, kumbaga, if invalid yung argument, we can call it a fallacy. Now, the fallacy of the converse states or is stated in this manner. P implies Q as one of its premise, pero yung isang premise niya is Q. Meaning, yung resulting or yung proceeding statement sa conditional statement natin with its preceding or kumbaga yung ating consequent and um, or yung cause and effect kumbaga yung if for example if our conclusion is P yan then this will actually be a fallacy of the converse. Now notice na also here in the fallacy of the inverse, yan, yung nasa kabilang column or nasa kabilang side ng screen, yan, we have here P implies Q as one of its premises and the other premise is the negation of P or yung antecedent natin. Okay? So, the negation of the antecedent and the conclusion is the negation of the consequent. Now, in that case, if we have a certain argument that is following that form, it will be a fallacy and it will not be valid. Now, please do observe na yung fallacies natin dito, yung converse at yung inverse, it's actually slightly similar in form with the modus ponens and the modus tollens. Okay? It's just that, notice na sa modus ponens natin, yung pangalawang premise is yung antecedent and yung conclusion is yung consequent. Sa modus tollens naman, yung antecedent pa rin, yung or the negation of the antecedent is the conclusion and the negation of the consequent is the second premise. Now, here in the invalid arguments, notice na yung ginawa nilang second premise is, for the fallacy of the converse, is yung consequent. Meanwhile, yung conclusion is yung antecedent. Okay? So, baliktad siya. Sa fallacy of the inverse naman, yung ginawang negated na second premise is yung antecedent. And yung conclusion naman is the negation of the consequent. And it is, kumbaga, in the inverse of the form here on the modus tollens. Okay? Now, if you see those, then you will, or if ganito yung pattern ng argument natin, automatically it is invalid. And again, pwede rin na i-interchange yung positions ng premises and will still arrive at an invalid na result. Okay? Now, let's say, for example, we have here um, the argument, the program is interesting, or I will watch a basketball game. Now, the program is not interesting, therefore, I will watch a basketball game. Now, here, what we are tasked to do is to simply transform it into symbolic form and determine what standard form is utilized or what standard form can this argument represent in order to show kung valid or invalid ba siya. Now, first off, change it into symbolic form by determining or by representing the statements into symbols. Now, first off, we have here, let A be the program is interesting. And then let B, I will watch a basketball game. Now, our premise here will look like this. The program is interesting. Or, I will watch a basketball game. That is a disjunction. Now, our second premise is the negation of our um, statement A. That is A or B. Tapos, yung second premise, not A. Tapos, yung conclusion naman natin is simply B. Yan. So, therefore, I will watch a basketball game. Observe the pattern of this statement or yung pattern ng argument na to. We can say na this is actually a valid argument by the form disjunctive syllogism. Now, just go back to your notes and take a look how a disjunctive syllogism looks like. And it is actually very similar to this one. Hence, the presented argument is valid.